Today we're going to learn how to make your own custom workbench inside of Hytale. So first, as always, you're going to make your creative world. Once in the world, type /op_self so you can gain access to the creative tools. Now open up the asset editor. Once inside the asset editor, you're going to add a pack, name it whatever, add your group name, and add yourself as an author. Now you're going to add an item. The asset type is going to be item. And first, as always, make a test asset so that way you can make your folder structure. You're going to make a folder and name it bench and create the folder. Select that folder, then name your asset. Now click copy asset, change this to Hytale. Go to item, bench, and you're going to select the bench depending on what you want to copy from. Making a custom workbench is kind of weird as you're limited to what you can do. You can't straight up make a brand new type of workbench or a new crafting system. What you can do is recycle from the ones in the game and kind of tweak them to do what you want it to do. To show an example of this, I'm going to make an upgrading workbench so you can upgrade armor. To do that, I'm going to copy from the tannery. Then in translation properties, I'm just going to name it whatever. I'm not going to have a description, but if you'd want one, that's where you put it. If you click on crafting, then recipe, and the input, all of these inside the input is what you need to craft your workbench, what your player would need to do to get this workbench. And in bench requirements, it tells them where to craft it at. So right here, the player must make the regular workbench first, and they craft this inside of the regular workbench. I'm okay with that, so I'm going to leave that as it is. And I'm not going to change any of the crafting materials needed for it. Now if you scroll down and click on behavior, this is where you're going to do everything relating to how your workbench functions. If you click on bench, there's 4 different types of crafting. There's regular crafting, there's processing, there's diagram crafting, and there's structural crafting. These all correlate to the regular crafting benches in the game. If you don't know which one each is, just look in the regular Hytale pack and look at the workbenches. It'll tell you which type it is. Now you want to set your ID. I'm just going to set it the same as my workbench name. You don't have to. This is what you're going to be referring to in your crafting recipes for the items you're going to make. If you click tier levels, this is all the upgrades you can do for your workstation. So on the side, whenever you're crafting, the upgrade button, this is what that is. I'm just going to leave it by default. It's very simple how you do that. Just for the upgrade requirements, you list in here the materials you need to upgrade it, and then the time it takes to upgrade it. And right here, we'll say what the upgrade does. So it can reduce crafting time, add extra input slots, and output slots. The list here in the upgrades will also change depending on the type of workbench it is. I'm not going to add any new tiers or change the tiers. I'm actually going to remove the tiers. I don't want any. Right here is where you would change all the sounds for your workbench, opening and closing and crafting and however you want to do that. I'm going to leave it default. Now right here, you can set the input types. If you want it to only allow you to put in things that you have crafting recipes for, then you would do filter valid ingredients. That means it'll be grayed out to anything that's not a valid crafting material. And I'll show you that later when I do that, because that's what I'm going to do. So right here, there's 2 inputs. You can change the amount of inputs you want inside your workbench as well by default. You can also add it if you want it to use a fuel, and you could set what items you want to be able to be used as fuel. So if you're making like a furnace type workbench, this is where you would do that. You can add the maximum amount of fuel items in there. And just like campfires, if it produces a byproduct such as charcoal, then this is where you would put what that byproduct would be. And you can also change the maximum amount of output slots. So if you want to make a crafting recipe that gives you multiple items and you need multiple slots, then it's just where you would do that as well. Now, that's it for your workbench. That is all you need to do. To actually change how the workbench functions, once you have it set to whatever workbench type you want, you actually change the functionality with your crafting recipes. So here, I'm going to grab my workbench real quick to show you. See, it's just a regular tannery. Now, because I changed the ID, you'll see if I grab hide, I can't put it in there. I can't put hide or anything in there because I changed the workbench ID. And I have it filtered to where it only accepts proper items. Another thing to note, while you're editing your workbench in the asset editor, do not have one placed down. Whenever the world reloads the assets, it'll make your workbench invisible, and the 2 slots your workbench was sitting in will just become unusable and become corrupted. And you can never use these 2 squares again. It also has a small chance of crashing your world, so just break your workbench, don't leave it sitting there while you're editing it. You'll have to play around with your crafting recipes to kind of make it how you want it. I'm going to show you how to do an upgrade system. So I'm just going to make it real simple. So I'm going to, real quick, I'm just going to copy and make like a test armor asset from the base game. I'm going to skip ahead in the video after I've done that. Okay, so I've copied over the copper chest piece, and I've made 2 versions of it. I've made test armor level 1 and test armor level 2. So the way I'm going to make my copy of the tanning bench be an upgrade station, 1, I don't allow anything else to go in there by using the filter items button that I showed you earlier. And 2, I'm going to make it with the crafting recipe. So the first level 1 armor, I left its crafting recipe the same. So you just get some copper bars and some fiber, and then you make your copper chest piece. But after that, to make it upgradable, the crafting recipe, I'm going to change it to use the test workbench. So ID test underscore workbench. Remember, the ID is not the name of your asset. It's whatever you put inside the asset ID. All right, and you're changing the crafting recipe type to whatever you set your workbench as. So the tannery is a processing workbench. All right. If you were to have categories inside your workbench, for the tannery, it doesn't. And for what I'm doing, it won't have it. But if you're going to have categories, this is what you would put your category as. This would be how long it takes to do it. I'll just do 3 seconds. If you need knowledge about it, if you need a certain memory level as well. Okay, and for the crafting recipe, I'm going to leave the second ingredient, so the fiber. I'm going to change the first ingredient. So I'm trying to have it upgrade from test armor level 1. So that's going to be my first ingredient. It's going to take away test armor level 1 from the player and turn it into test armor level 2. Now that I've done that, now that test armor level 2 is only crafted from that new workbench I made, what the game will do is whenever I place down the workbench, it reads all the crafting recipes that require this workbench, and it reads all the ingredients of that recipe, and it allows them to be used inside the workbench. So if I hover over it, you see it's lit up. Test armor level 1 is lit up. I should probably grab some fiber too, because that's part of my recipe. Here, I'll just make it easier. I'll just remove it. So now you'll see that if I put it in there, it'll just start doing it. And boom, I now have test armor level 2 with 100% resistance to projectiles physical, plus 100 hearts, and 10,000 durability. And there you go. So that's a little example of how you would do an upgrade system. Now obviously you can go way more in depth with this, with the different types of crafting benches and recipes and the ways you can mix and match it. Most of the heavy lifting is done from your crafting recipes, not from the workbench itself. The workbench itself just provides the UI. Everything you're doing to change the workbench is done in your crafting recipes. Alright, and after that, you're done. That's it. You have just made your own new workbench. Now obviously, you can make your own models and your own textures for it, and you would just apply them here in the block rendering section. But yeah, that's it. Congratulations. Have fun with your new workbenches.